After I complimented her on a dress, my daughter-in-law said, "Don't try to relate. We're different generations." That night, she found a photo on her dresser. The woman in it was wearing the same dress, but the story behind it would turn her cold. I haven't told anyone this story. Not my husband. Not even my son.
But it's been eating at me, and I need to get it off my chest.
This happened last month. My daughter-in-law, Tessa, said something to me that I just can't shake. It was like she reached into me and flicked a nerve I didn't even know was still raw. Tessa married my son Eric 3 years ago. She's 28. Eric's 30. They met in Chicago through work. She's the kind of woman who always has perfect nails, perfectly curated Instagram photos, and this distant politeness that feels colder than silence. I've never felt welcome in her presence. Not hostile, just dismissed. Like I'm furniture. I've tried to bridge the gap. I bring homemade food when they host. I offer help with errands or setting up when they have guests. I compliment her style. I stay out of their business. But it never matters. She keeps a wall up, and I've spent years knocking gently, hoping one day she'd crack a smile that reached her eyes. Anyway, a few Sundays ago we were at their house in Evanston for a backyard cookout. Just family and a few of their neighbors. I'd brought lemon bars and potato salad, like I always do. Tessa came out of the house wearing a beautiful dress. Long, flowy, with a soft floral print, roses and vines on a cream background. I froze for a second because it looked exactly like a dress I had when I was about her age. I smiled and said, "That's a lovely dress. I had one just like it when I was younger." I meant it as a compliment. Nothing more. I wasn't trying to compare myself to her or compete. I just genuinely noticed the similarity. I thought it might spark a moment of connection. But she didn't even look at me. She glanced at her phone and said, flatly, "Don't try to relate. We're different generations." Then she walked off toward her friends. I stood there holding my drink, trying to pretend like it didn't sting. But it did. More than I expected. It wasn't just the words. It was the tone. Like I was irrelevant. Like my memories didn't matter. Like I was just someone passing through her space. Not her husband's mother. Not a woman with her own full life behind her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment in my head. Her tone, her body language, the way she shut me down like I was trying to insert myself where I didn't belong. I know she's never warmed to me, but this felt personal. Around 2 a.m., I got up and went into our storage room. I pulled down an old photo album I hadn't touched in years. The binding was dusty, and some of the plastic sleeves were curling. But I found the photo I remembered clear as day. Me, 24 years old, standing on the steps of St. Agnes Church in Joliet. I was wearing that dress. Same print. Same fabric. It was the last gift my sister Angela gave me before she died of breast cancer at 26. She'd been sick for a year, in and out of hospitals, her body shrinking day by day. But the week before she passed, she handed me that dress, still with the tags on. "You always looked better in cream than me," she said. I wore it to her funeral, and then I folded it away and never touched it again. Tessa's comment had opened a wound I didn't know was still bleeding. I sat on the floor staring at that picture for almost an hour. And then I did something I've never done before. I got up, printed a copy of the photo, slipped it into a silver frame I had in a drawer, and the next morning, I drove to Eric and Tessa's house. Eric had given me a key just in case when they first moved in. I'd never used it before. But that morning, I let myself in while I knew they were at their gym class. Tessa posts their Sunday workouts on Instagram like clockwork. I went straight to their bedroom and placed the framed photo on her dresser, leaned gently against her jewelry box. I didn't leave a note. No explanation. I didn't want to spell it out. I just wanted her to see me. I haven't heard anything about it since. Not from her. Not from Eric. I don't even know if she recognized the dress. But I'm done trying to play nice. She wanted to remind me we're from different generations. Fine. She's about to find out just how different we really are. I expected silence. I thought maybe the photo would be quietly ignored, or worse, thrown away. But 3 days later, something changed. Eric called me during his lunch break. He sounded off. Not angry, not exactly. Just distant. Hey Mom, he said. Tessa found a photo on her dresser. Did you leave that here? I didn't lie. Yes, I said. It's a picture of me in the same dress she wore the other day. There was a long pause. Then quietly he said she felt it was kind of invasive, like you coming in unannounced. That hit me hard.
I didn't expect that.
I thought maybe he'd ask about the dress. Maybe he'd be curious.
But no.
It was about boundaries, about how Tessa felt. Eric, I said, steady as I could. You gave me that key. You said it was for emergencies. And this was an emergency? He asked. I bit my tongue so hard it hurt. I wanted to scream. Your wife humiliated me in my own son's backyard, Eric. I needed her to know that dress meant something, but I didn't. I just said, I thought she'd appreciate the story. That's all. Okay, he said. Well, maybe next time just text first, all right?
Next time.
Like this was some misunderstanding, like I'd borrowed her blender without asking. I wanted to reach through the phone and shake him. 2 weeks passed. No word from Tessa. I saw photos of her online, smiling, brunching with her friends, always perfectly dressed. But there was one photo that stopped me cold. She posted a picture of herself standing in front of a mirror, wearing that same floral dress. But this time, the caption read, Vintage Vibes. Found this gem in a thrift store. No story behind it, just fashion. I read that line over and over. No story behind it. She'd seen the photo. She knew. And instead of softening, instead of even asking about it, she erased the history. I didn't reply. I didn't comment. But something in me turned cold. The next Sunday, they skipped our usual dinner. No excuse, no heads up. Just didn't show. My husband asked if we should call. I said no. But that week, I started pulling boxes out of storage. Photos. Letters. My sister's old journals. Even the original dress, which I still had in a sealed garment bag. I laid everything out, cataloged it, and took photos of each item. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I started putting together a digital archive, a personal history project. One that included my sister's story, my story, the dress, and what it meant. And I wasn't going to keep it private. Tessa wanted to pretend the dress had no past. She was about to find out how deep that past ran. I didn't post the archive publicly right away. I wasn't sure how far I wanted to take this. At first, it was just for me. Just proof that I existed, that Angela existed, that our lives and pain weren't some dusty memory to be forgotten the second it became inconvenient for the next generation. But one night, while going through the dress again, I found something I hadn't remembered. Tucked into the inner lining of the dress's hem was a small safety pin holding a folded piece of paper. I must have forgotten all about it. I opened it with shaking hands. It was a note, handwritten by Angela. It said, If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. Don't let this dress be just cloth. Wear it when you need strength. Remember that you mattered to someone. I sat on the floor of the closet for almost an hour after reading that. I knew what I had to do. I contacted a friend of mine, Deborah, who works with a local historical society in Illinois. She helps collect stories from women who've lived through personal loss, especially from the 1970s and 80s, for their Lives Unfolded archive. I asked her if they'd be interested in a submission. She was quiet for a second and then said, We'd be honored. So I sent her everything. The dress, the note, the photos, even a short piece I wrote about Angela, about how she fought to stay soft and kind even while cancer tore her apart. How she gave me that dress as a way to stay close, even after she was gone. They loved it. A few weeks later, the dress and my sister's story became part of a traveling exhibit about women's resilience, memory, and family. It launched with a small event in downtown Chicago. I didn't invite Eric and Tessa. I wasn't in the mood to hear how it didn't fit their brand of brunch and boho aesthetics.
But they found out anyway.
Because the event was shared by the Chicago Tribune's lifestyle section. And the Tribune ran a piece titled, A Dress with a Soul. The forgotten history behind a vintage trend there, right in the center of the article, was a photo of my dress. Not the thrift store one. Not Tessa's filtered selfie. The original. With a caption that read, "Donated by the sister of Angela Hayes, who passed away from cancer in 1974. This was the last gift she gave her." I know for a fact Tessa saw it, because the next day, her Instagram went private. Every photo with the dress vanished. Then Eric called. "Why didn't you tell us?" He asked, voice tight. I said nothing. "You knew she wore that dress. You knew she'd see it." "She didn't care when I tried to tell her," I said. "She mocked it. Mocked me. So I stopped talking and let the dress speak for itself."
"She's upset," he said.
"She feels embarrassed." "Good," I said. "That means she finally feels something." He hung up. It's been weeks now. Still no word from Tessa. But last I checked, she posted a photo wearing a different dress, this time with a caption that read, "Some stories aren't ours to tell. Learning that the hard way."
I didn't comment.
I didn't need to. But the part of me that used to ache for her approval, that part is dead now. After the article came out, something shifted in Eric. He stopped calling as much. When we did talk, he seemed rushed, distracted, like he didn't want to stay on the phone too long. I could hear Tessa in the background sometimes, soft murmurs, doors closing. Cold energy. I knew that tone. I've lived with it for years now. And then something new. My husband, Daniel, got an invitation in the mail. Not an email. Not a group text. A formal printed invite, addressed to Mr. Daniel Price. It was for a thank you celebration Tessa was hosting for her startup's investors and friends, some rooftop cocktail thing in the West Loop. My name wasn't on it. At first, Daniel thought it was a mistake. "Should we email them?" he asked. "No," I said.
"She knows what she's doing."
And then came the final insult. A week later, Eric called. His voice was nervous, a little too careful. He asked if I could stop using the family name in public interviews going forward. Said it was for privacy. I almost laughed. "You mean Tessa doesn't want her friends to know she mocked a dress that belonged to a dead woman?" "Mom, don't make this harder," he said. I hung up. And that night I wrote a letter, not to Eric, not to Tessa, to Angela. I told her everything. How the dress lived on, how it made people feel something again, how her story mattered, even when someone tried to erase it. I sealed the letter, took the original photo of me in the dress, and drove back to Joliet, to the old church. It was nearly empty, just a few candles lit, and the faint smell of wax and wood. I placed the envelope and photo under a bench in the back pew, Angela's favorite spot when we were kids. And for the first time in a long time, I felt clear. But I wasn't finished. Because Tessa wasn't just trying to forget me, she was building a brand on stories she didn't live. And I had more stories to tell. I gave it 2 weeks. 2 weeks of silence. No calls from Eric. No apology from Tessa. Not even a text on the anniversary of Angela's death, which I know they both saw mentioned in the article. So, I did what I'd been holding back from doing. I told my story. Not the soft museum version. Not the gentle one for newspaper columns. The real one. I sat down and recorded a video on my old iPad. No makeup. No lighting tricks. Just me, in my kitchen, holding the original photo of Angela and the dress. I told the story of how my sister gave it to me the week before she died. How I wore it to her funeral. How I never touched it again until my daughter-in-law mocked me for trying to relate. How I placed a framed photo of myself in the same dress on her dresser, not to threaten her, not to shame her, but to show her that the past matters. That some things don't belong to trends. I told them how she erased it, how she took the story of that dress and stripped it down to an empty caption. No story. Just fashion. I uploaded it to YouTube under my name, Margaret Hayes Price. The title? The story behind the dress my daughter-in-law mocked, and I shared it on Facebook, in a few vintage clothing groups, in a grief support forum. It went viral. Not overnight, but slowly, steadily. Comments started pouring in. I had a sister too. Thank you for this. My mother passed last year. I have her scarf. I'll never wear it again, but I understand. This isn't about fashion, it's about memory. Thank you. Thousands of views. Then tens of thousands. A podcast reached out. Then a small documentary team. They wanted to feature the story in a short series about memory and clothing. And the best part? They included both dresses, the original and Tessa's thrifted version, side by side in a final shot. The caption read, "Some garments carry more than fabric. Some carry grief, love, and disrespect." I never said her name, but people figured it out. They found the original Instagram post, the caption, the timing. They connected the dots. Quietly, subtly, the backlash came for her. She started losing brand sponsorships for her lifestyle blog. A few boutiques she tagged began distancing themselves. Someone posted a clip of her saying on a podcast, "Older generations think everything they wore had meaning. Sometimes it's just a dress," alongside my video. That clip got more views than her entire social channel. She made a private apology on her stories, shaky and insincere. Eric called again. "She's not doing well. Can you take the video down?"
No, I said.
Because it's not about her anymore. It never was.
He was quiet for a long time.
Then he said something I'll never forget. "You changed, Mom." I almost laughed.
No, Eric.
I stopped hiding. We haven't spoken since. Sometimes Daniel asks if I miss them, if I regret how far it's gone. But I look at the framed note Angela left me. "Remember that you mattered to someone." And I remember that I do. The dress now sits in the center of a permanent exhibit at the Illinois Women's History Museum. The plaque reads, "Angela's dress. Worn once in 1974. Worn again in memory, to remind the world that stories live in the seams." Tessa still lives her curated life, quieter now, smaller. She still wears vintage. But never that kind of vintage again. And me? I tell stories now. And no one dares silence me again.